months back, and we're so happy to have him on board Star Trek The Cruise. Please welcome Dr. Trek himself, Larry NEMECEK, is with us. Thank you, JT. Yes, I'm a cruise rookie. Do we have any other cruise virgins in the house? All right. There we go. Well, you know, I've walked these kind of decks before, but this is going to be awesome being here. So it's so great to be here with you, and it's so great to be leading off this incredible panel. Thank you all for jumping in, but let's get everybody out here, okay? What say? All right. First up, this was, well, I'm going to hold on now. Okay, some of the veterans that you have say, yeah, I hate missing Mom this year. But let me get her out here. You all know Dr. ERIN MacDonald, right? And I was getting this picture, but now for the 9th, for every single cruise and his book club, let's get our Star Trek author ROBB out here. And this was an honor, just now backstage. I'm so thrilled to get to meet not only former NASA multiple flights astronaut, but also a muckety-muck at NASA, overseeing the science program and the Space Telescope Science Institute in time. John Grunsfeld, everybody. And then someone that I've been very close friend to and colleague over the many years, and helped me out many times when I was doing the Next Gen Companion and didn't know anybody or anything. But you all know her from these cruises for so much working with actors now, and so much history of Trek behind the scenes. LOLITA THATCHO. And I think joining me in the ranks of cruise virgins.
Is that the emergency alert?
I don't know. I've been wandering around the same place. Let me start that over.
It'd be funny if it happened.
Another cruise virgin this year, but someone who's had so many years in Star Trek. It's incredible. And I think he's still got a lot more to share with us from over the years. I am so thrilled to have him here. BRAGA. If I have to say, quickly, a Voyager, long-time executive for Next Generation, with your co-writer of First Contact and Generations, you know that. All right, let's get started. Yeah, we're good. Wow, look at this bunch. It's a motley crew. It's a motley crew, and being a motley crew of anything on a ship is great. So let's just go down the line. I think I got everybody introduced, but if I left something out, let's do that. First of all, everybody, it's great to be here. You know, Dr. Trek, all my stuff, Trekland. I don't need to go over that. Let's hear what's happening with you, Dr. ERIN. What's been up lately? May I say, now part of canon Star Trek, and apparently official announcer and navigator of official Starfleet Academy training videos. So.
All right, hi everyone. If you have not met me before, my name is Dr. ERIN MacDonald. Thank you. My background is in astrophysics. I got my PhD at the University of Glasgow in gravitational waves. I did research for a while. I went into education, then I went into engineering, and I started giving these talks, coming to panels, coming to the cruise, and giving talks on the science behind the science that we see in Star Trek. I was lucky enough to be hired as the science advisor for season 3 of Star Trek Discovery, and then they brought me on for all of the current shows. So basically everything since then, I've been the science advisor.
And I think it shows, right? Yes.
And as Larry mentioned, one of the more exciting things, some of you saw a little mini Dr. ERIN cameo at the end of season 1 of Prodigy, but since I last saw all of you, season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy came out, and Dr. ERIN MacDonald, professor at Starfleet Academy, taught Temporal Mechanics 101. So very exciting to me. So I'm excited to be back. Thank you for having me, and we're going to have a great week.
Yes. All right, Rob, what's been on the calendar?
I hate talking about myself, but since you asked.
Yes.
So since we last gathered, 6 books came out.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really busy spring and fall. I've got 2 really exciting Star Trek projects coming out that I can't talk about. And
Oh, those are the best kind. Yeah.
yeah, maybe after a few drinks, if you get the unlimited drink package, you'll be able to get something out of me. But one of them is a dream project that I've been waiting to do for years and years and years. So I'm really pouring my heart into it, and I hope you all like it. And I've got 4 other books coming out this year, and doing a lot of stuff on the ship, and I can't wait to see you all at all the events.
Yes, John. I didn't mean to just say that. It's a great honor. It's a great honor to have you here with us, and a great honor to meet. What's been high flying for you lately?
So
Yes.
I'm sort of professorial, I'll stand. And have you noticed how Picard wears a jacket like this, and he's always doing this? Okay, now you can see why. You know, it gets bunched up. I'm John Grunsfeld. I'm a NASA astronaut. I'm an astrophysicist like ERIN. And I can say with no reservations that Star Trek inspired me to be a scientist and to want to go to space, and without Star Trek I probably would not have been an astronaut. When I was 67 or so, Star Trek was an adult show, and my parents wouldn't let me watch it. And if you look at the themes from the original series, they're very relevant today, I think you would all agree. But I did get to watch them in rerun, and with my best friend across the street, we would play Star Trek. And he was always Shatner. And me being a scientist, I was Spock. So Spock really was a role model for my life. I eventually became the NASA chief scientist, not science officer. But I flew 5 space shuttle flights, 3 Hubble Space Telescope. Shameless pitch, on Tuesday I'm going to give a talk about the Hubble Space Telescope and its mission and my missions to the Hubble. And then later in the week I'll talk about the science of the search for life in the universe, very much like Star Trek's overall mission. I also have the distinction of being the first person to watch Star Trek in space. And I'll tell a main version of the story, which is when we were in quarantine in 2009 for my final mission up to Hubble, the Star Trek movie came out with Chris Pine, the new Star Trek, and we couldn't see it because we were in quarantine. Even though we were in Florida, I was at a nearby theater, thought we could sneak out, but no. And so I finagled a way for them to beam it up. During the mission, took them 7 days in little bits, your tax dollars and satellites to beam it up. And finally, we got to the end of the mission, and the weather in Florida was so bad they kept us up 2 extra days, and that allowed us to assemble all of the pieces of the film together in one film, and on the mid-deck of the space shuttle orbiting the Earth at 17,500 miles an hour, no popcorn. We watched Star Trek the movie, and it was awesome. Thank you.
That's cool. I was going to say, I would much prefer for my tax dollars to be spent that way than some of the others. Yeah. Oh, Lolita. Miss a...
Oh, Larry. Larry and I go back a very long ways. Brandon and I go back a very long way. Hi, everybody. Yes, number 8 for me on this cruise. So, yes, thank you. I'm just glad to be back here again and bringing, I think I have 12, 15 actors with me, and Brannon and Larry and Tom, the makeup guy, and the band members from Tim Russ's band. And it's just great to see you all, and I hope we're going to have a wonderful, wonderful week. And we will, right?
Are we going to sing a little more of you on stage than we normally do? Or is...
Probably too much. Yes. I actually have been, I say roped in a nice way. I have been brought in to perform with Bob O'Reilly and J.G. Hertzler in their 45-minute performance. So you will see me, as I used to be an actress many years ago. I think I'm going to be an actress for a couple days on the cruise again, so we'll see. But please be very forgiving.
That's awesome. Well, Mr. Braga.
Are we moving?
Yes. Can you feel it?
So being nauseated is normal. This is my first Star Trek cruise. I never imagined that I would do one, but the reputation, you guys have really turned this, fans have really turned this into something special. It's pretty amazing. I went in my cabin for about an hour. When I came out, all the other cabin doors were decorated. So that's a thing, right? It's so far so good. Really enjoying
You
myself.
didn't bring anything to decorate your door with?
No, I didn't.
Next time.
Just put some t-shirts up, Brandon. Wow, this is Brandon Braga's t-shirt. That's about as Star Trek as you could get. That's, yeah. So we've got a lot of things going this week. Some folks have alluded to that. So everybody, you can look at the programs. Is there something anybody's especially, if you haven't mentioned it already, something you're especially excited that's like new, or something you're going to try out this week, or a topic, or a paradigm of a panel or something?
Erin probably does.
I always do. No, so if any of you were with us last year, we tried out doing stargazing, and we're going to do it again. It's wildly popular. So I'm excited to do that. I'll be doing my talk the last year in space science again. So we'll talk about kind of all the things that you may have caught, may have missed in the news in the last year. We'll talk about the eclipse, my new tattoo, the eclipse. And then I also have a new fun, really fun talk that I'm excited for, which is the science of lower decks. So all the weird and wacky science that we did on that show. So I'm very excited to share that with you all.
And can I just say real quick, Erin and I have an old idea that I haven't done in years, but we're doing, I think later in the week, we're going to team up for a panel called Real Stars, Trek Stars. And it's about the real, you hear, like Rigel or Capella mentioned in Star Trek, and how well or how not well the way it was portrayed in the show or Planets with Life or whatever match up against real science. And I'm excited because I haven't done this in ages, but whenever I would do it with an astrophysicist or an astronomer or someone at a college or somewhere. And so I'm thrilled to do it with
It's
them.
going to be really fun. Yes.
Okay.
One of the highlights for me every year is the Star Trek Mad Libs that we do, because it involves all of you, and you are twisted, weird people. And I love that. And this year we're doing something new. We're doing 2 bracket challenges. One to determine the best original series villain, and the other the best Star Trek movie. So, and that's all of you guys. So I'm looking forward to
So
it.
that's something no one ever talks about.
When you see the fight break out, that's that.
And you know what? I have this thing about where I always hate saying Star Trek villain. I always like to say Star Trek adversary, because every villain thinks their goals are, but the original series, I think you can use villain.
Yeah, I just like the word, like the hard V in villain. Adversary, villain.
Yeah. Well, the original series is more black and white, cut and dried at times. Now, John, you mentioned some of the things that are going on. Maybe a little more about what people really don't want to miss and not missing.
Well, as I said, I have two talks that I'm giving. One will be about the Hubble Space Telescope and the missions to repair it. And there'll be, multimedia and a little bit of sound and other things.
Oh, cool.
But
Okay.
It's, pretty remarkable that Hubble was launched in 1990. And it's still alive, it's still doing great in orbit, still making many discoveries. And in my mind, Hubble is our first starship, because it has taken us from, our solar system literally to the edge of the universe. Now, James Webb Space Telescope has seen a little bit further. You can ask Erin about that.
Those kids.
Me about that.
Those new kids.
Yeah. And that's on Tuesday. And then on Friday, assuming I finish the talk, I'm going to talk about our quest, our search for life away from Earth. I've spent much of my career in the last decade working on missions to search for life in our solar system, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I've had an extensive search while I was at NASA headquarters for intelligent life in Washington.
Yes. Plus, then the funding ran out or something, and someone got the idea. Yeah,
That's right.
He's onto something here. Let's.
Yeah. And so I've got that. And then for all of you who are going to participate, I'm a judge in the costume contest. So I'll meet in the back afterwards, and if you want to talk over drinks and talk about costume, wink, wink. No. But actually, this is my first Star Trek cruise. It's also my first cruise. Period.
Are you feeling it shaking down here right now?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. But mostly, I'm excited about meeting many of you and talking about Star Trek and talking about space science.
Yes, Lolita.
Okay. So, I mentioned the Klingon play. We've got the Rat Pack back again. Is the Klingon in Klingon?
Is the Klingon play in Klingon?
Maybe some of it. You'll have to come see. It's written by Bob and JG wrote this, by the way. So let me just tell you, it's 45 minutes of chaos and vaudeville by the Klingons. That's all I can say.
Chaos spelled with a K.
Yes. And we've got the Rat Pack, of course. Thank you for everyone always supporting the Rat Pack. And I'm moderating the Voyager panels. I'm very excited about that because it's the 30th year. That's why Brannon's here. And
Now wait a minute. You mentioned it's the 30th year of Voyager, which is a big theme of the cruise, right? I was gonna say.
I'm leading up to the fact that I am one of the producers of the Voyager documentary. Yes. And we are screening it. It's a little nebulous right now. I know we're doing it once, for sure. Twice, I hope, and if any of you have not seen it, if you were in Los Angeles, New York, or London, and you did get a chance to see it, please, please come. We're very, very, very proud of it. And
or if they didn't see it in LA, London, or New York.
well, they're going to see it on the ship, and it's actually been edited a little bit since those 3 screenings, and we're really very pleased with it. But I have to say, probably the biggest honor of the week is getting to moderate my friend Brannon's panel.
When is that?
I have no idea. They'll let us know.
I think it's after the shore leaves. But yeah, I'll be doing a really Q&A session. So if you have any questions about why certain good or bad decisions were made on Next Gen, Voyager, or Enterprise, I'll be there to answer.
Or Orville, or any of your things.
Or evade. But, oh man, Threshold. And he went right for it.
Best episode. I will throw down. I got your back.
Wait for it.
Yeah, for those who don't know, I wrote one of the worst episodes of Star Trek.
You know what? I don't want to think. I've heard somebody say once, if not for the last 5 minutes, Threshold is this awesome, incredible, mind-bending, mind-effing episode, and people only have a problem.
Larry, that ending.
I was just saying. But Rosebud was the ending of Kane, so
If Rosebud was a giant salamander, sure.
there's a taste.
Anyway, we did a lot of episodes. There was a lot going on. We didn't always hit the mark, and I'm curious to hear how you could possibly justify the evolutionary authenticity of.
I don't need to give my 19-point essay on why Threshold is a great episode right now. I will say the science of Warp 10 in Threshold is fantastic, and I will absolutely defend it. So, the salamanders is not my area of expertise, but I love the Warp 10 concept in it, and I think it's described very well. So I've got your back.
Thank you.
And I would just vouch that, especially the last few years, as the world has come back around, you ask Brannon a question, he'll give you a straight answer on all those years. All the good, the bad, the ugly, the warts and all, however the art people say it, yes. And also generations, and also first contact.
There's a lot. And Mission Impossible, all of it.
Yes. And lately,
And the Orville.
Yes. And Cosmos.
That other Star Trek show.
There we go. There we go. We're like halfway through. Do people have questions? They would like to throw it. Anybody?
I bet there are.
We have a couple of mic runners.
We have lovely Jessica out there.
Yes.
Jess has a microphone.
Has a mic. Are we all set up with the mics now?
Yeah, we have.
Oh, we're giving up one from the panel, but then we'll pass mics back and forth.
There's one right here, question.
Oh, there should be one on Tom's.
Okay.
So this is a question about aliens, I think, for Erin. So when you see the Klingons on The Next Generation, and they have those big foreheads, that always seemed very understandable because they're always fighting. It's like a built-in helmet. But some of the other alien modifications, it's hard to see how they evolved to have that. So do you guys think about it, like, or is it just something that would look cool? Because some of those heads and foreheads look complicated and unnecessary.
So this exact question is why my heart is like, Muhammad. Muhammad. No, it's a great question, and I appreciate it. So my background is not necessarily in biology, but I've heard Professor Norris talk many times, and I think, and there's always, so when I do the science advising for Star Trek, I always try to have like an in-universe explanation and then a I like to call it the pre-Cochrane era and the post-Cochrane era explanation. So the pre-Cochrane era explanation is that it's a lot cheaper to put prosthetics on a bipedal human and make them look like an alien, and that's great. But the post-Cochrane explanation is sort of this idea of like parallel development, right? That if you're gonna have a Earth M-class planet, and you're gonna have species that are able to evolve to intelligence and warp capability and survive on a planet for long enough to get to that point, they're gonna be pretty similar. And that's kind of that whole idea behind the different looks of the different aliens that we get. But yeah, I mean, certainly we could break it down and we could get into a lot of detail. But I highly encourage you to check out Professor Moore's stuff, and I'm sorry I don't have a better answer. But thank you for the question.
Yeah. Isn't that like Hodgkin's law of parallel planet development?
Yeah, there's a lot of theories about that. Yeah,
but
because there's two weird events. This is so me parroting Professor Norris, so please don't give me credit for this. This is him. But there's two weird random events that happened in Earth's evolution. One was where one cell ate the other, back when that was all we had, was like cellular development. And that cell that was eaten became the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse. That was just activated a bunch of the powerhouse of the cell. And that allowed for a lot of the development into multicellular species that we have now. And then the other thing was the asteroid that took out the dinosaurs. Because the dinosaurs, as a species, were the dominant species for a long time on Earth, much longer than humans have been around. And if that asteroid hadn't hit, who knows where Earth would be now.
And then they all took off for the Delta Quadrant.
Erin, if we actually know where we'd be, we'd all be gone.
We would all be gone.
We have our own schism. We have Gorn here, we have Voth, and the Delta Quadrant. Oh, anybody? We have another. Oh, yes. Good.
Hi, I'm Tony Phillips, and I'm a big fan, and Erin, I've seen you at Dragon Con. Loved your talk so much. We always hear about warp drive, right? Warp. This is the warp theory that's in the world today. This is how warp works on the show. We hear about impulse on the show, but we never hear about what that is. It's somewhere between rockets and warp, but where?
Great question. So impulse drive, which we hear about, that's sort of, you can conceptualize as sub-light speed. So we have, my super quick explanation is we have a bowling ball and a trampoline, that's mass. That mass is trying to move, and it's hard to move. The lighter it is, the easier it is to move. And then when you have no mass, you coast in the straight line, which is the speed of light. And impulse drive is everything under one speed of light unit, which stuff gets weird the closer you get to the speed of light, which we don't really talk about, and that's fine. And then the idea behind warp drive is actually really genius and does work mathematically with space-time, which is that you can't go faster than the speed of light on the surface of space-time, because that's when you have no mass and it's just this straight thing. But nothing says that space-time itself can't go faster than the speed of light. So warp is when you build a bubble of space-time around your ship, and then that carries you faster than the speed of light, and you want to go exponentially faster, you build another bubble around that, and then it's warp factor 2, and another roughly around that, torque factor 3. So that's sort of the top level explanation. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, so we're not engaging the warp bubble. Yeah.
I didn't know, John, you were like, looked like one moment there. Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't know if you wanted to jump in on that.
Was that good enough, Mr. Astronaut? Dr. Astronaut? I'm really excited you're here.
So, it would be less than the speed of light, but we don't know if it would be like rockets or if it would, what propulsion.
I see what you, yes, so with impulse drive, yeah, the mechanisms that we've seen in like the technical manuals use ion propulsion is as far as I've ever seen get into the detail, which is actually a thing. So in another Star franchise that shall not be mentioned, but some of us are fans and that's fine, they have twin ion engine fighters, just TIE fighters, and but ion engines are a thing, and they're just very slow. But the idea is that now in the future we've gotten good enough. I don't know if you want to add more into ion engines.
I think that's right. You know, to say ion engines, we think of the little teeny engines that we have today, but we know that Enterprise had plasma conduits, and plasma rocket engines, which is a type of ion engine, is also a real thing. And currently, the best hope that, at least in our solar system, we can get to Mars faster, or go visit Saturn or something like that with a plasma rocket. Maybe plasma fusion rocket, someday, hopefully very soon. But to create the warp bubble around the ship is much harder, and we don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
The math works.
But there's a Mexican physicist,
Albuquerque, yeah.
So that theoretically is possible.
It is, and then we go, here you go, engineers. I did the math.
There's kind of an infinite mass problem.
There's an infinite mass problem and like an inverse energy problem, but like, we'll get there.
But impulse engines are basically still action-reaction, just on a higher technology level, but they're still, in real time.
What are inertial dampers and why are they always off and on?
Dennis, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling good.
Because falling out of chairs looks cool, Brandon.
I mean, you can feel that little rumble of the ship right now, but that's because inertial dampers are on. We'd all be all over the floor and the ceiling.
Do we have another one? Oh, good.
It's not my first cruise, but my first Star Trek cruise. I'm happy to do it with everybody here. Brandon, you're one of my favorite Star Trek authors, and I'm looking forward to the panel too. But I don't want to start it off. Like Your Hell was like one of my favorite. You said Threshold was your least favorite. What is your favorite episode ever, and why?
Voyager. Oh boy. And I didn't say Threshold was my worst. There are others. You mentioned, I love Voyager so much. I had such a good time on that show. Year of Hell 1 and 2 would definitely rank up there. There were some smaller episodes that really were special to me that kind of flew under the radar. There was one called Distant Origin, about what if dinosaurs had evolved on Earth. It's really a kind of a Galileo metaphor. It was just, I thought, turned out really, really well. It was told from the point of view of another species. And then there was some great, what Voyager did, I think, possibly better than the other shows in some ways, was comedy. And so I think of a charming little episode like Someone to Watch Over Me. It was really fun, and enjoyed that very much.
Thank you.
There's so many different kinds of episodes, it's hard to pick just one.
And you limited yourself to Voyager just then. You started off with a bang with cause and effect, and on.
Well, Next Gen's a whole different thing, but this is Voyager, right?
Well, not that the whole cruise. That's the highlight feature, but the other shows are being celebrated. Remember, and other cast members are here.
Yeah.
So you can talk about Next Gen if you want.
Oh, thank you.
It's fine with it's fine with me.
Well, I just want to say one thing about Voyager. I worked on Voyager for the entire run myself, and at the time, it didn't seem to be the most popular show out there. DS9 was leading the way, and there was Next Gen, of course, it's always leading the way. But when we went in 2020 to do the crowdfunding for this Voyager documentary, it was in the middle of COVID, it was April, and we thought, this is the biggest crapshoot of our lives as producers, because either you guys are gonna give us money or you're not, because you're holding on to it because your job is in danger, you're not working. It was a terrible time for us. And that second day, we had raised $1.7 million. So that goes to show you the incredible fandom of Voyager, and I think it's really come full circle, because it's not just an age of those people 30 years ago that are watching it. It's all these young people that are now have discovered it, and it's pretty amazing.
Voyager, when it came out, to impossible ratings by today's standards.
Yes.
20 million people watched the pilot, but it took a lot of hits.
Yes, it did.
There were a lot of people who loved it. A lot of people said, it's just more of Next Generation." Which, by the way, when did that become a bad thing?
Good point.
It's nice to see that it only took 30 years. But it's nice to see over the decades that the show was more deeply appreciated, because it was really a work of passion by everybody working on it at the time.
I have to put my Dr. Trek hat on for a second. I would say DS9 and Voyager were both in the shadow of TNG back in the day.
Yes.
And they have both, the Netflix streaming revolution has helped both of those shows, and Enterprise too. But I think all the post-TNG shows have had audiences, and be able to binge watch and be able to see the shows back and back and back like that, right? As far as all those little ripples of the whole Janeway effect, be able to grow the next generation or two that were inspired by her, and and Seven and B'Elanna on the show. Yeah. Okay. Oh, they've got a mic line. If you're raising your hand out in the audience,
And Jess is right there.
Okay. Yes, we've got a stationary and we've got a runner. I guess is how we're evolving. Okay.
Hi, my name is Steve, and I'm kind of deviating from a lot of my brothers and sisters in Star Trek because they have all their Star Trek gear on. But I've got a NASA. And the reason why is because we have an astronaut with us. And I'd like to ask you to comment, getting away from science fiction just for a little while, that we love. But this contemporary thing about those two astronauts up there that apparently need to be saved, I mean, can you comment on that?
Sure. So Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore launched on a Boeing capsule last June, roughly, and the capsule had some issues, and NASA made what was a very conservative decision to bring the capsule down and leave Sonny and Butch on board on the assumption that, the next crew rotation, the next capsule that would go up, they would have the opportunity to come down. They're still up there. And I can honestly say that there are only two places right now that I would want to be. One is on a Star Trek cruise, or two off the Earth. On the space station. And so some of those folks are really lucky. I mean, as far as I know, they weren't invited on the cruise, they would have missed it. They would have missed their safety briefing. Just the logistics of having a crew capsule that can do the rotation, which will be on a SpaceX Dragon capsule. And we promised we wouldn't talk politics, so I won't say any more about the SpaceX capsule. But there is one going up in March, and the whole point is that to bring them down now, we need 2 empty seats going up. And because we use those as rescue capsules. And so they've adjusted the crew manifest so that the crew will still have rescue capability and Sonny and Butch can come down. And truly, I love the Star Trek franchise, but actually being in space is way better than any of us. Absolutely magical. There are no inertial dampeners, and that's a good thing because it allows humans to float, freely. And we're really working hard on all of the human physiology so that when Butch and Sonny come back, they will have been exercising 2 hours a day. pretty much every day since they went up, which is what you need to do to come back strong. And I do expect to see all of you at least 2 hours a day in the gym. So that you come off the cruise as strong as you are now. So anyway, they're going to be just fine, and I'm sure they're going to be thrilled to come back to Earth and see their family and friends.
And you know what just struck me as hearing you talk is it's a great example in logistics. I mean, which I know they had Plan B, Plan C, Plan D anyway. But it's another great example of thinking on your feet and adjusting to circumstance. It's a hell of a lot better situation than Apollo 13, which is a movie I love. That was critical in how are we going to save these people. But this has become an exercise in managing resources and schedules.
I mean, how many times does shuttlecraft land on a planet that has a thick plasma atmosphere so the transporters don't work and they're stranded? I mean, it's just normal.
It's just part of the idiocy. I was going to say, I can say this because of my age, but I was a NASA kid before I was a Star Trek kid. So this is, I love this conversation. Okay, let's go back to our runner mic. Yeah.
Thank you everyone for your hard work over the years. My question is for Brannon. You have dealt with networks and them taking our shows away from us, Enterprise, the change in network from UPN to, I don't remember where they went, Voyager. Can you talk about having to deal with the business end of that and keep the stories flowing?
Well, we were very lucky in that we had almost no network or studio interference with any of our storytelling. Very, very rarely would they step in and give a note that would change the trajectory of the story. In fact, I can only remember one time, and it was on Enterprise. Man, I wish I was more prepared. It was the one where the Prime Directive was first invoked. And there were two species on the planet. One was dying off from disease while the other was evolving to a higher kind of consciousness.
And natural selection?
I don't remember, but it was Archer was going to make the decision, was going to make the controversial decision that actually ended the episode. And for reasons I can't quite remember, they just didn't like that. They didn't think the captain should do that. And so Dr. Phlox made the decision. It's an interesting little piece of interference because when you think about it, there were way more controversial decisions that captains made. Captain Janeway disassembling Tuvix, for instance. Tuvix advocates in here. But generally speaking, we were left alone. In terms of Enterprise going off the air, there was some major a major regime change, and the executives at Paramount, who were the kind of overseers and guardians of the Star Trek franchise, were out virtually overnight. And Paramount became CBS Paramount, and they just, they let the show run one more year. We did 99 episodes, which is nothing to be ashamed of, but it should have gone another 2 or 3 years. And we had stories there.
And we won't mention the boy band in the mess hall changing every week.
Well, they wanted to do some strange things. They wanted to do musical guests. They didn't. There were some people that didn't really understand what Star Trek was and what we were in the midst of doing. And Enterprise was an expensive show. It was very high end, and the ratings were diminishing. I don't think, in my humble opinion, it was because the show was necessarily a bad show. I just think the franchise had just, maybe Marvel's getting a little taste of that now. Nothing lasts forever.
Do you think that if Enterprise had waited to premiere, if we'd waited to do it a few years later, it would have been better? It was too much Star Trek at the time.
Rick and I wanted to wait 2 years.
Yeah.
After Voyager went off the air. We fought hard to just say give it a rest.
Yeah.
But the studio, Star Trek was very profitable. But in answer to your question, I think the show was, the quality of the writing was certainly benefited from almost no studio or network interference. Over the, how many episodes were done? 900,000, how many during the 90s trek?
Yeah, and there's a difference between big picture, like boy band, and specific notes on specific scripts when they came down the pike. Right? No pun intended. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I just got that.
I did, and I wasn't even giving credit.
I'm sorry. That's been a thing.
That's good. I think Enterprise is one of the first productions we shot entirely in HD as well, which I was always fascinated by. That was really cool. But
Season 3.
yeah.
Oh, no, you're saying post-production.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
That is very cool.
No one had high-def TVs when we started.
Nobody here 5 years ahead of
I fought to get this thing posted in high def because it was only a matter of time before everyone would have these 16 by 9. We were shooting in 16 by 9, and nobody had TVs that way. And because it was like when shows were in black and white, but color was coming. Trying to convince a network to shoot in color was too expensive, but yeah. That's an interesting little detail.
Yeah, it is very unique. My question is for you, Mr. Braga. I've been waiting to ask this for 23 years.
We need a drum roll.
Yeah, no, it's probably not that cool, but you're easily one of my favorite writers on any series, Star Trek included, especially Voyager. Eurofell 1 and 2, one of my favorite stories ever told because it showed the vulnerability of, the shit can blow up. They may not make it. And that was very compelling to me. You don't have a writing credit on a particular episode the year before, which is before and after, where Cass went from old lady down to embryo and eventually unborn. My question for you is, I thought it was fascinating because there were so many storytelling elements from before and after. In particular, what ended up being this Brennan time weapon missile that you referenced in your two-part story is what caused Cass to go back in time and become unborn and so on. Was that a long story arc that was planned? Is that something that just was a happy accident you could borrow? Hey, this happened last year with Cass, now I can tell a whole story around it with this new Brennan species. Would you agree that the Year of Hell is in fact a 3-part story, with before and after being the first episode?
Yes, Brandon.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Was it worth the wait?
Yes.
Okay.
You.
The concept of using time as a weapon, weaponizing time, somehow, was that discussion began in the Cass episode. So it really, you could categorize it as a 3-parter.
Thank you.
Thank you. There we go.
Can I throw out one thing real quick? So here's a tidbit for Enterprise defenders, because at the time, and I would say the other factor about affecting Enterprise was it wasn't Enterprise, nothing you all could have done to change the fact that UPN was a shrinking, tiny little network that was only hitting 3/4 of the country. It wasn't even getting in all the markets at the time. So you were never gonna have the chance to be. And you were always the #1 show on UPN, But someone pointed out to me that the last season, when Ron had gone over and created Galactica, and it was a huge hit out of the gate, and it was the darling of everybody, but it was on Sci-Fi. And basically it's are you a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? Because someone pointed out to me that if you actually got the numbers for Galactica, getting all the rave reviews, and the numbers for Enterprise, which had this perception, not by Trek fans, well, some Trek fans, but by the world at large, the suits and the bean counter, that it was shrinking. But the actuality was, the last season of Enterprise, when the two overlapped, Enterprise was seen by 1 million more people a week than Galactica.
Wow.
Did you know that?
No, but Galactica was still better.
I just wanted to throw a little actual data point into it. Okay, we're back here. Yes.
Hi, my question is for John. I was just wondering, you've been up in space and you've done some incredible work on the Hubble. If you had a moment, not necessarily like super grand, I know like astronauts will talk about their first time being in space and how that is a life-changing moment, but was there ever like a small moment that was just kind of like not necessarily a grand spectacle, but just stuck with you while you were up there, whether it was working on a project or just seeing something while you were doing that incredible work up in space?
He said it was watching Star Trek going on.
How much time do we have? No, truly watching Star Trek in space was, really important. But, we were on the mid-deck with no windows, floating in space, and that was a lot about, being able to get Star Trek beamed up to the shuttle, and just that achievement alone, which, by the way, Gene Roddenberry III helped. He put in a good word to somebody so NASA could get that footage. But really, it was my first spacewalk. This was 1999. I'm an astronomer. Hubble is kind of the holy grail of astronomy. And I went out of the airlock, and with my spacewalking partner Steve Smith, we went back to the payload bay where Hubble was mounted, and I was riding on the end of the robotic arm. You switch off, and the robotic arm operator brought me, Jean-Francois Clairvoy, a European Space Agency astronaut, brought me back to very close to Hubble, and I just suddenly had this moment. I'm in a spacesuit, I'm working in a vacuum, and on the shuttle orbiting there, and there's the Hubble Space Telescope. And I just had a kind of, I thought it was sort of a fun moment, but it really was quite meaningful for me that, is this real? And I took my index finger of my glove and reached out and touched the Hubble, and then went back to work. But I had to do that, and it's really unbelievable, talking about, human evolution and a planet and our first attempts to get to space, and then living and working in space, that we were able to create something like the Hubble Space Telescope and the Space Shuttle and equip humans, very fragile humans, to go out in that harsh environment and do regular work on a telescope. I just found that so amazing in that moment. So.
You had your own Picard Phoenix moment there.
Yep.
Yeah. It's universal. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Oh, can I add one more thing to that?
Yes, you can, John.
Just because Jean-Francois, at the end of the mission, I was in the back of the payload bay, at the bottom of the Hubble, and my task was to work on something about halfway up. And Jean-Francois and I had pre-coordinated this. And after the mission, nobody asked about it. But I'm at the bottom of the telescope, and normally I would say, take me out, 6 feet or something like that. But we pre-coordinated, and I said, Jean-Francois, beam me up. And he took me exactly where I needed to go. And with millions of people watching these missions, you'd think somebody would have asked about that.
No, because they weren't watching. It was you said beam me up, and he went okay, and went right where you wanted. Yeah, like of course. That's awesome. Okay, now let's go.
Hi. This question's for Drs. McDonald and Grunsfeld. But there's a scene in the movie Generations where Soren launches a rocket directly into the sun. It seems to go right off the pad, right into the sun, and then within a matter of seconds both reaches the sun and then is perceived as that sun dying, all within a matter of seconds. I was wondering how you can justify that as a appears on screen scientifically, and also whether or not you can, if there's some other scene in any Star Trek movie or TV show that say you find you can't.
You keep getting hit with Andre's questions.
It's great. No, I love this. Is what I'm here for. This is what I do. No, it's awesome. I mean, you're right. Your instincts are correct. I think a lot of us think about the sun giving us light, and it's right there, and it gives us light, and we can see the size of it, and it's not a far-off star. Don't look directly at the sun. But the light takes 8 minutes to reach us at the speed of light. And so if we were to even launch something, it would have to get to the speed of light, and it would take 8 minutes at a minimum to get that. But we have warp capability. So maybe it went to warp. Or there was a little cut scene, and we launched it, and then it got there. And
there it
what's
lies.
in between is fine. I would say For the last part of the question, I would say the difficult science, and I'm curious to hear your answer on this, if there's been any Star Trek science that was maybe like, oh, okay. Mine, the hardest one I have to explain, and you all know me, and if you don't, you're going to after the end of the week. I will science anything. But I would say one of the hardest things to science is the red matter from that 2009. That's a little difficult to describe, but it's okay, because it's still Star Trek and we love it. And I don't know, are you able to turn off your science brain when you watch this stuff, or?
Well, you know, to watch virtually any science fiction, and I'll pick on my favorite movie, Gravity.
A strong choice, sir.
If you watch Gravity, you have to suspend belief about everything. About human nature, about science, our actual universe. And so for instance, for Gravity, I turned off all of those things just to enjoy the movie. I still hate it. Sorry, Gravity fans out there. No, but you know, the amazing thing about humans, I hope to learn that the amazing thing about coming on a Star Trek cruise is that people have wonderful stories. And that Star Trek is framed around space exploration and incredible science themes. You know, that's what makes me love it so much. And so, but it's the storytelling. You know, it's so that it's okay to suspend, you know, various laws of physics to enable those stories. And that's not unique to science fiction. We see that. So, you know, you launch a probe to the sun, and it seems to be instantaneous, but of course you broke the commercial for 8 minutes, so you come back, and there it is, the sun. Now, I'll say one thing about red matter, because you brought it up, and I'll try and mention something in my talk, but you know, there's a limited amount of time, so I have one slide about everything in the universe. You know, we've had all these various revolutions, you know, the Copernican revolution and Galileo, who of course was persecuted for bringing up science. That's a thing again, by the way. And, you know, these knowledge revolutions are what enable us to think about Star Trek. When I was a physicist in college, we thought we were pretty smart. We knew about, say, most of what's in the universe, except for one little nagging thing called dark matter, which accounted for a good fraction of everything in the universe. And then, due to observations with the Hubble Space Telescope, we discovered that the universe is not only expanding, but it's accelerating, and whatever's causing it is actually the dominant thing in the universe. And so when we now sort of take stock of, well, how much do we know about our universe? It turns out we know about stuff like us that accounts for 4% of the universe, and the rest of the universe, dark matter and dark energy, which is what's causing the acceleration, we have no clue what it is. And so 96% of the universe is composed of stuff by energy content that we don't know what it is. And so there may be something in that mysterious universe that we live in that could account for red matter. So I'm not counting it out yet.
I'll give you that.
Not that that's necessarily a good thing, but
that's great.
That's, yeah. And 96% sounds like a great percentage to know that there should still be plenty more Star Trek has to explore. Guys, we're at 6. Brandon, I was going to ask real fast. This whole thing about shooting the rocket and this thing, you and Ron had knockdown, drag-out fights about how to portray that, right? The timing?
Well, I think the whole thing's preposterous. My issue, in retrospect, is the sun is so huge. How could this little stupid rocket do anything? You know, it's like, it was kind of silly, but it served a story purpose, you know. But the idea of being able to vanquish something as mighty as our star is pretty outlandish.
Well, it is. But there's plenty of real science people and fake science people that have been doing that to Star Trek for 30 years. So it's good. It's all good. The story is the key. The story is the key. Guys and gals and peeps, I think we're at time unless somebody says otherwise. So I'm sorry about the last question, folks, and this has been awesome. I should let you know, so I have a locations panel coming up this week about Star Trek's filming locations. It's awesome. Erin and I have the panel, and then I've got a game that I've done a couple of times called Instant Meme Games. It's later in the week, whatever. Try to come by and see that too from my end of things. So otherwise, this has been an awesome hour. Thank you. See it, go to see everyone's. Talk about stargazing. I know we have a lot of stargazing to do, but we've got some stars here that you should go see. Thanks, everybody. Trek well. We'll see you.